Have you ever found yourself thinking intensely about someone only to receive a message or phone call from them at that exact moment, or suddenly come across them on social media? Or maybe you woke up with a strange heaviness in your chest, not knowing why, until later you discovered that person was going through something deep at the very same time. It might seem like a coincidence, but according to Carl Jung, meaningful coincidences don't really exist. What he called synchronicity is actually a reflection of a deeper, unconscious connection between two people, a mysterious bond that seems to operate beneath the surface of logic, as if the universe itself was conspiring to remind you that your souls are intertwined. When synchronicity enters your life, it is never just a random event. It is as though something greater than you is whispering through hidden signs, trying to awaken you to truths you might otherwise overlook. Jung believed that we are not as separate as we think. Beyond our individual minds lies a collective unconscious, a vast ocean of shared symbols, archetypes, and emotions that bind humanity together in ways science still struggles to explain. And within this invisible ocean, when two people share a powerful emotional imprint, their energies can resonate like two instruments vibrating in harmony, no matter the distance between them. That's why, when you think of someone with unusual intensity, it's entirely possible that they are thinking of you, too, not because either of you decided it, but because you are both unconsciously tuned to the same frequency, like two hearts beating in separate bodies yet keeping the same rhythm. This isn't the dramatic telepathy of fantasy stories, but something far more subtle and real. It's unconscious empathy, a silent vibration of emotion that crosses time and space, weaving two lives together in ways neither can fully control. Have you ever felt it, that quiet certainty that someone is close, even though they're nowhere near you? Or the way your heart shifts without explanation, as if an unseen presence brushed against your soul? That is not imagination. It's the deeper language of connection, and once you've experienced it, you'll never look at coincidence the same way again. Jung once described synchronicity as the soul's attempt to speak in symbols where logic fails. When you think of someone and a song tied to them begins to play, or their name suddenly appears before you, the universe is not mocking you with chance. It is reflecting your inner world outward, showing you that your connection is alive, even if hidden. These moments are gateways, glimpses into the silent bond between two souls. Sometimes you sense his mood before he even speaks. Sometimes you feel his absence more powerfully than his presence. And sometimes, against all reason, your heart tells you something. Your mind refuses to believe that you still live inside him, just as he lives inside you. The truth is, emotions don't vanish simply because they are unspoken. They sink deep into the unconscious, where they continue to resonate. If he once felt something profound in your presence, that energy doesn't disappear. It lingers, stored within him, echoing quietly until the moment it aligns with your own vibration. That's why, in those strange hours when you suddenly feel overcome by longing or sadness without knowing why, you may not be feeling only your own emotions, you may be carrying his as well. This is the hidden current of synchronicity, the silent mirror between two souls. It shows itself in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. A sudden urge to write to him that overwhelms you without cause, followed by his reply, "I was just thinking about you." A restless night where your dreams bring him vividly before you, only for him to reach out days later. These are not accidents. They are evidence of a psychic bridge, a resonance that logic cannot capture. Jung would say the unconscious remembers what the conscious mind tries to forget. And when two people are bound by something, unresolved love unspoken, desire unfulfilled, wounds unhealed, the unconscious continues the conversation long after words have ceased. But synchronicity is not always gentle. Sometimes it unsettles. You may feel waves of joy without knowing their source, or sudden heaviness pressing on you as if carrying someone else's storm. When this happens, pause and ask yourself, is this truly mine, or am I sensing something from him? This question matters because it allows you to see the invisible thread not as madness, but as a sign that you are part of something larger, a quiet dialogue of souls, echoing beneath the surface of ordinary life. And this is where the mystery deepens. For when synchronicity repeats itself, when symbols recur, when dreams return night after night, it becomes impossible to dismiss as chance. It becomes a language. The unconscious does not speak in words. It speaks in images, in music, in encounters that seem too precise to ignore. And if you dare to listen, if you dare to trust your intuition, you may discover that the reason these signs appear is not only because you are thinking of him, but because he is carrying you, too, in silence. When two souls are bound by something deeper than appearances, the world around them begins to reflect it back like a mirror. You may notice the signs in unexpected ways, as if reality itself is conspiring to remind you of his presence. You think of him intensely, and suddenly his name flashes before your eyes on a billboard, in a book, or through the lips of someone who casually mentions him without knowing the weight it carries for you. Or perhaps you're standing in a crowded place when a song begins to play, one that belongs to the secret language of the two of you. Coincidence? Jung would say no. These are not accidents, but synchronicities, expressions of the unconscious world, communicating with you through symbols and moments charged with meaning. It is in these uncanny repetitions that the veil between your inner world and the external world thins. Something inside you finds its echo outside you, and it is often in these fragile instants that you realize he is not gone from your life the way reason insists. In truth, he lingers in memory, in energy, and in a bond that cannot be reduced to chance. That is why, at the very moment you're about to let go, the universe seems to place him before you again, testing whether you've truly released him, or whether the thread between you still vibrates with unfinished business. Dreams, too, are one of the most powerful messengers of this silent connection. For Jung, dreams are not random fragments of the mind, but symbolic expressions of the unconscious, attempting to reveal truths we cannot handle in waking life. And when there is an unspoken bond between you and another person, it will often find its way into your dreams. Have you ever woken from sleep with the sensation that he was just with you, so vividly that your heart struggled to accept it wasn't real? These dreams are not simply fantasies, they are the soul's way of carrying what the conscious mind cannot. Recurring dreams are especially meaningful. If he appears again and again, often at moments of inner conflict or transition, it may not be because you are clinging to him, it may be because the connection itself is alive, seeking expression. Some people even experience mirror dreams, where two individuals dream of each other at nearly the same time, or encounter similar symbols without knowing the other has shared the same experience. Such phenomena might sound impossible, yet countless lives testify to them, and when the energy between two souls resonates strongly enough, the unconscious does not obey the limits of distance. Instead, it creates its own bridge. Even the emotions of your body can betray this hidden dialogue. A sudden tightness in your chest, a rush of warmth, a wave of sadness that comes without cause, these are not always random fluctuations. Sometimes they are the body registering what the heart already knows, that you are being thought of, remembered, or silently reached for. When you are deeply connected to someone, your body becomes more than flesh and blood. It becomes an antenna, tuned to their vibration. A sudden shiver, a restless heartbeat, even tears that fall without clear reason may all be signs that his energy is brushing against yours. It is in these moments that synchronicity feels most intimate. You may be going about your day, and suddenly his face flashes before you, uninvited but undeniable. Hours later, a message appears, as if drawn by the invisible force that linked your thoughts to his. Or you feel the impulse to reach for your phone, and before your fingers move, a notification lights up with his name. These patterns are not accidents, they are synchronicities, the hidden rhythm of two souls resonating across silence. Jung described this as the collective unconscious at work, not as fantasy but as a profound psychological truth. The unconscious mind is not bound by the same rules as the conscious one. It communicates through emotion, symbol, and resonance, carrying impressions that bypass logic altogether. And when love, longing, or unresolved connection is involved, that resonance becomes unshakably strong. You may resist it, try to deny it, or even attempt to bury it beneath distractions, but the unconscious does not forget. It insists, returning again and again in signs, symbols, and feelings that defy explanation. The truth is, not all of these emotions will be gentle. Sometimes synchronicity brings peace, as though simply thinking of him steadies your heart. Other times it brings turmoil, a storm of confusion that throws your balance off. His presence, even in absence, may calm you or unsettle you. And that is because real connections are never neutral. They leave an imprint so strong that it continues to shape your inner world, even when the person is not physically near. When his energy is carried within you, his absence becomes a presence of its own. This is why silence between two people who once shared a bond is never truly empty. Outwardly, there may be no calls, no messages, no confessions, but silence often carries its own weight. It hums with everything left unsaid, the longing, the fear, the hesitation, the unspoken, "I miss you." Jung believed that silence itself can be a form of communication, because within the unconscious, nothing is truly suppressed. The energy lingers, filling the space between you with vibrations you cannot see but can undeniably feel. Sometimes the silence says more than words ever could. "I'm thinking of you, but I cannot come closer." Or, "I feel you, but I am not ready to face it." And if you have ever sat in that silence and still felt his presence, you already know what this means. Connection is not erased by distance or denial. It lives in dreams, in sudden emotions, in uncanny signs that appear when you least expect them. It speaks in the only language the soul knows: symbols, feelings, synchronicities, and it refuses to let you forget that he, too, carries you somewhere deep within. There are moments when the bond becomes so strong that you feel him even when logic tells you he is far away. You might be sitting in your room at night, the world quiet, when suddenly his presence fills the air around you. Not a thought, not a memory, but a sensation, as if his energy is wrapping itself around you, as if a shadow of him is walking beside you in silence. This isn't imagination playing tricks on you. It is what psychologists call somatic memory, the body remembering what the mind tries to dismiss. And sometimes it is even more than memory. It is an energetic intuition, the unconscious reaching across the unseen bridge that still exists between you. What makes it even more mysterious is that these connections often show themselves in parallel experiences. You wake suddenly in the middle of the night with no explanation, and later discover he did the same. You feel nostalgic at the very moment he begins to retreat into memories of you. Even without contact, your moods seem to echo one another, as though you are living on opposite sides of a mirror. Jung called this the collective unconscious, a vast network that links every human soul. And when two hearts are deeply tied, that network becomes a thread between them, allowing emotions to ripple back and forth like waves crossing an invisible ocean. It is not about reading each other's thoughts. It is about being touched by each other's energy, so powerfully that the unconscious cannot help but respond. These parallel shifts are often dismissed as coincidence, yet anyone who has lived through them knows they carry a weight that coincidence cannot explain. You think of him, and he suddenly reaches out. You feel sadness, and he appears in your dreams. You sense silence, and he withdraws without saying why. This is not fantasy, it is sensitivity. The stronger the bond, the more sensitive the unconscious becomes, until even unspoken emotions are felt as though they belong to you. And this is the silent truth so many ignore. When a bond is real, it does not end with distance. It continues to breathe in the spaces between you, whether you acknowledge it or not. Even silence itself has a voice in such connections. Outwardly, it may look like nothing is happening, no messages, no calls, no presence. But the silence is not empty. It hums with tension, filled with all the words unsaid, all the desires unspoken, all the confessions withheld. Sometimes silence is restraint, not indifference. It can mean, "I'm thinking of you, but I don't know how to come closer." Or, "I feel you, but I am not ready to face it." If you've ever sat in that silence and still felt the unmistakable weight of his presence, you already know how loud silence can be. And then there are moments of knowing, those quiet intuitions that strike you with a certainty you cannot justify. You may feel deep within that he will return, and later he does. You may sense his approach before he appears, as though your soul has already read the signals your mind cannot see. Jung believed that the unconscious has the power to anticipate, not because it can predict the future, but because it picks up on subtle patterns and energies that escape the conscious mind. So when you know without knowing why, when you feel his return before it happens, it is not madness. It is intuition, sharpened by the resonance of your bond. This intuition often proves itself in ways too precise to ignore. A dream that foretells his message, a sudden burst of longing answered by his presence, a deep certainty that he has not truly left, confirmed when he reappears. These are not proofs that can be measured, yet they are truths the soul recognizes instantly. And when reality aligns with intuition, it is a reminder that your unconscious has always been listening, always attuned to his silent call. Perhaps the most haunting sign of all is the way his emotional presence continues to shape your inner world. He does not have to be physically near you to affect you. Sometimes, just the thought of him steadies you, bringing an inexplicable peace. Other times, the memory of him unsettles you so deeply that you feel thrown off balance. His absence is not neutral, it is charged with meaning. Why? Because he was never just another person in your life. He left an imprint on your soul, an emotional vibration that continues to echo within you. And just as you feel his weight within you, it is possible that you live inside him too, carried silently in the corners of his heart. Real connections are not erased by time, by silence, or even by denial. They linger, they vibrate, they return in dreams and synchronicities, they speak through your body and whisper through your intuition. And if you cannot ignore him, it is very possible that he cannot ignore you either. For as Jung said, the unconscious does not forget. What we try to repress returns in other forms, symbols, moods, synchronicities, and what we resist most fiercely often controls us the most. The signs are not always rational. They are not logical proof, but they are traces, fragments of a truth that exists beyond the mind's ability to explain. If you have ever felt these moments, then you already know what logic denies. That connection is real, that your unconscious is speaking, and that when you think of him, there is a very real chance that he is thinking of you too. If you have ever carried someone in silence, you already know how heavy it can feel. Not because they are physically there, but because their energy lingers like a shadow that refuses to fade. You try to reason with yourself, convincing your heart that it is only memory, only longing, only your imagination running wild. Yet, the signs keep appearing. The silence keeps humming with words unsaid, the dreams return with faces you thought you had forgotten, and the intuition whispers louder than your logic. This bond is not finished. Carl Jung believed that what is left unresolved in the unconscious never disappears. It returns, again and again, wearing different masks, dreams, symbols, synchronicities, sudden moods, uncanny repetitions. The unconscious insists because it wants wholeness, it wants balance. And when two souls have touched each other deeply, the unconscious continues the dialogue long after the conscious mind has turned away. That is why you still feel him, even in absence. That is why, despite your silence, there are nights when you can almost sense his presence, as though he too cannot escape the echo of you within him. But here lies a truth you must hold carefully. Synchronicity is not always proof of destiny. It is proof of connection, yes, but not necessarily of a future together. Sometimes it means unfinished love waiting to be spoken. Other times it means lessons still unresolved, emotions still unhealed. The unconscious brings these signals not to torment you, but to awaken you, to remind you of the depth within yourself, and to challenge you to face what you would rather avoid. If he is still alive in you, it may be because there is something you must learn, release, or transform, not only about him, but about yourself. This is why the most important question is not simply, is he thinking of me too? The deeper question is, what is this connection teaching me about myself? Are you being asked to hold on, or are you being asked to let go? Are you meant to recognize his silent presence, or are you meant to see how much of your own soul is reflected in him? Jung would remind us that projection is a powerful force. We often see in another what we have not yet discovered within ourselves. If you feel that his absence both wounds you and awakens you, it may be because he represents a part of you still waiting to be claimed, healed, or transformed. And yet, even with this awareness, the beauty of such bonds cannot be denied. To feel someone across distance, to sense them in silence, to dream of them without cause, these are sacred experiences. They remind you that love, in its purest form, transcends the limits of logic. They remind you that the soul is vast, and that connection is real even when unspoken. Perhaps this is why the thought of him can steady you one day and unsettle you the next. His presence within you is a mirror showing both your tenderness and your wounds, both your hope and your fear. So if you feel him still, trust that feeling. Trust it without needing to turn it into certainty about the future. Trust it as a sign that your soul is alive, that your heart is capable of resonance so deep it cannot be explained away. But also, protect yourself, because while it is beautiful to carry someone silently, it is also dangerous to live entirely in that silence. Love deserves to be more than vibration. It deserves words, presence, actions. It deserves to be lived, not only felt. This is the paradox Jung leaves us with. What you resist controls you, but what you accept transforms you. If you resist the bond, it will haunt you in signs, dreams, synchronicities. But if you accept it not as destiny, not as proof, but as truth, you can transform it into wisdom, into strength, into growth. You can let it teach you without imprisoning you. You can honor it without being ruled by it. And you can carry it as part of your story without allowing it to prevent you from writing new chapters. Perhaps he does think of you, even in this very moment. Perhaps he feels the same sudden waves of longing, the same restless dreams, the same unexplainable shifts of emotion. Perhaps he carries you more deeply than he will ever confess. But even if he never says it, even if he never returns, the bond itself has already given you something eternal, the knowledge that your soul is capable of connection so profound that it bends the laws of time and space. And if that is true, then you are capable of even more, to love again, to feel again, to trust again, not only him, but yourself. For the greatest synchronicity is not simply when two souls think of each other at the same time. The greatest synchronicity is when life itself calls you to awaken, when the universe uses love, memory, and longing to remind you of who you truly are. So if you cannot ignore him, do not dismiss it as madness. Do not shame yourself for still feeling. Instead, recognize it for what it is, the language of the unconscious, the whisper of the soul, the resonance of a bond that refuses to be forgotten. Whether it leads you back to him or forward into yourself, the signs are there to awaken you. And the fact that you feel them at all means you are alive to the mystery of love, a mystery that, even in silence, even in absence, still has the power to move your heart. And perhaps that is the greatest truth of all, that when you think of him and feel him near, you are not imagining things, you are touching a reality the mind cannot measure, but the soul instantly knows. A reality that says, even in silence, even in distance, even in dreams, connection is real. And maybe tonight, as you lie in silence, you'll feel it again, that quiet pull, that invisible thread, reminding you he is still out there, carrying a piece of you just as you carry a piece of him. That is not weakness nor imagination. That is the soul's way of telling you, love in its truest form never disappears. The question is not only whether he feels you, but whether you are ready to embrace what that connection is asking of you. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it inside, share it. Let someone else know they are not alone in what they feel. And if your heart wants more truths like this, make sure you subscribe to Heartsync X, where we give voice to the emotions your soul has always known but your mind could never explain.